was there historical evidence of positive vaccines? I mean, your uncle famously, President John F. Kennedy, was a proponent of the polio vaccine in '63, and I think that did good, but I don't know. I mean, you're one of the most knowledgeable people I've ever spoken to on vaccines. Was that a good vaccine? Are there vaccines that you see as positive?
Well, the problem is because there's no placebo testing,
Right.
nobody knows what the risk profile is for any vaccine, which means nobody can tell you that this vaccine is averting more harm than it's causing. And I'm in litigation now where part of the exercise of the litigation was to go through each vaccine and to show that consistently each one of those vaccines is killing, and of the current vaccines currently on the schedule, is killing and injuring more people than historically the disease killed or injured. And people don't even consider these vaccines. They're vaccines like rotavirus, which clearly is killing. And then a lot of those vaccines have cancer causing, like the XMRV virus in them. So there's no way to tell whether the cancer epidemic we're now having in baby boomers, et cetera, is coming from those vaccines. But it's all the soft tissue cancers that we know are caused by those viruses, those retroviruses. So we don't really have the science to say that any particular vaccine did more harm than good. That the arguments are not over present vaccines. The arguments are over except for the measles vaccine, there's a heated argument about whether it's causing more harm than good. And I would say that the winning argument there is it caused a lot more harm than good, particularly in the United States. The metrics and the algorithm are going to be different for developing countries where you'd actually see more mortalities that are associated with measles. But in the United States, measles mortality was on its way out in 1963. There were only 400 people who died that year. That was the year before the vaccine was introduced. Almost all of them were poor Black kids from the Mississippi Delta and other really impoverished, isolated places, and they were virtually all of them malnourished with severe vitamin D deficiencies. And a large percentage of them, according to the studies, had already had intellectual disabilities and chronic diseases. That was before the poverty programs, which were designed to eliminate them. My father helped write, like the WICS program that was designed to eliminate starvation among American children.
There was a documentary.
I'll tell you this.
Yeah.
CDC has done a study, an extensive study, along with Johns Hopkins, to determine whether the vaccines, the historical vaccines like smallpox and polio vaccines, diphtheria, tetanus, pertussis, Haemophilus influenza B, hepatitis B, whether those vaccines actually had anything to do with these huge reductions in mortalities that we saw during the first half of the 20th century. And their study says that no, the vaccines had almost nothing to do with it. So that mythology that vaccines eliminated those mortalities, CDC, and you can go to my Instagram, and there's actually about 4 weeks ago, I posted the CDC conclusion that says thus vaccines had little or nothing to do with the dramatic reductions in mortality seen in the first half of the 20th century. What really stopped people from dying of those diseases was nutrition, sanitation, and hygiene. And it was like good foods, electric refrigerators, chlorinated water supplies, sewage disposal systems. That's what eliminated these. And one of the things, if you look at the declines on a chart, the declines for vaccinated illnesses like polio and smallpox and measles declined along the same timelines as scurvy and cholera and tuberculosis and all the other diseases for which there was no vaccine. All those diseases disappeared at the same time on an identical timeline, whether they had a vaccine or not. And there are many, 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 many studies that show that the vaccines, despite the mythology, had virtually nothing to do with the disappearance of those diseases, fatalities from those diseases.
Yeah.
Measles has been eliminated as a disease, essentially, except for isolated outbreaks in the US due to the vaccine. Measles mortalities had already virtually disappeared before the vaccine was introduced. So measles was a childhood rash